May we bow. Loving Lord of grace, I thank you for this gathering, for fruit that it has borne in the past and what we anticipate from today and in the future. I pray that all can contribute, and as we are led by the Holy Spirit, we can educate and uplift and affirm one another to find new perspectives and to develop an even deeper appreciation for Scripture, for your church, and for your plan of salvation in the world. We pray that you would help us to trust you always more deeply every day, and we pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, yeah, earlier when you weren't here, I said we're going to continue our study in the book of Hosea, and thankfully, they spoke up. So I just wanted to see if they've been paying attention. So,
Oh my gosh.
So they passed that test. If you would, today we're going to look at Ruth chapter 3, and we may go into 4. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how
Chapter
time.
3 or verse 3?
Chapter 3.
Okay.
Ruth, not Hosea. Ruth chapter 3. And this is going to be, my heading says Ruth and Boaz at the threshing floor. So and when we last joined our heroes, let's go ahead and read through the chapter. I believe it's only 18 verses, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
It's not very long. So we'll read through it once, and then I have a video to play, and then other things to take us into. So would someone please read, starting at chapter 3, verse 1, go as long as you like. And then if that person stops, just someone else pick it up and take it to the end of the chapter.
One day, Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi, said to her, "My daughter, I must find a home for you where you will be well provided for. Now Boaz, with whose women you have worked, is a relative of ours. Tonight he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash, put on perfume, and get dressed in your best clothes. Then go down to the threshing floor, but don't let him know you're there until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, note the place where he is lying. Then go and uncover his feet and lie down. He will tell you what to do. I will do, I'm sorry. I will do whatever you say," Ruth answered. So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. When Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. In the middle of the night, something startled the man. He turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am your servant Ruth," she said. "Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family." "The Lord bless you, my daughter," he replied. "This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. All the people of my town know that you are a woman of noble character. Although it is true that I am a guardian redeemer of our family, there is another who is more closely related than I. Stay here for the night. And in the morning, if he wants to do his duty as your guardian redeemer, good. Let him redeem you. But if he is not willing, as surely as the Lord lives, I will do it. Lie here until morning." So she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before anyone could be recognized. And he said, "No one must know that a woman came to the threshing floor." He also said, "Bring me the shawl you are wearing and hold it out." When she did so, he poured into it 6 measures of barley and placed a bundle on her. Then he went back to town. When Ruth came to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, "How did it go, my daughter?" Then she told her everything Boaz had done for her and added, "He gave me these 6 measures of barley, saying, 'Don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed.'" Then Naomi said, "Wait, my daughter, until you find out what happens, for the man will not rest until the matter is settled today."
Very good. So with that, the concept of Goel in Hebrew is the kinsman redeemer, and that has a big feature in this. Let me see if I can share a screen and play this little video about threshing floors. I found this series of videos, and they're informative, but the guy speaks so slowly. So thank goodness it's a short video. Because at least for the threshing floor, that you can look at, this is his 41st video on Ruth.
Wow.
So you can tell he goes through, so if you want to look him up, you can find certain things, but I found that most of them I thought were too tedious. And if anybody's going to drone on too long, I want it to be me. So, So let's try
Yeah.
this and see.
Well,
Hopefully everyone will be able to hear. Oops.
Pastor Jim, do you want the lights on?
Sure.
Naomi,
Do you have popcorn?
her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, should I not seek rest for you, which will do good for you?" Now, is Boaz not our relative, the Boaz with whose young women you were? See, look, behold, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. It's interesting that this whole text, it's not a threshing floor, it is one specific threshing floor, and maybe it was a huge place like this here, and the whole of the town of Bethlehem, they had one threshing floor together, where they were meeting. And well, what do you do at a threshing floor? It's the place to thresh grain. In biblical thinking, the threshing floor is the place of origin of the staple food grain. It's the very basis of an existence. Like the wine press for the wine and sheep, if you talk about sheep, you think about wool and meat. The term threshing floor thus stands for grain, fruit, harvest, for a food basis, and ultimately for assets, for wealth. It is something positive, something desirable that you only leave to someone who is trustworthy. And it's the origin where you get something to bless another person with. So it is very, very logical that Naomi, looking for a rest for her daughter-in-law, sends her to the threshing floor in search for peace, quiet, and maybe a husband, a home. It is equally logical that the enemies of Israel, they wanted to harm the people of God. They robbed the threshing floors of the Israelites. The threshing floor is a place of origin of blessing, and therefore very, very often associated with a joyful celebration. The Israelites were to tithe from the produce of the threshing floor and bring an offering, as they do up until today, a first fruit offering of the dough when they bake bread. It is very clear that this yield of the threshing floor cannot be produced by man, but is always a gift from God. And therefore, in principle, God is the one who acts on the threshing floor. In many cases, if you go throughout the Bible and just look up the word for threshing floor, you will see that it is also a place of judgment, a place where things are crushed, smashed, and spoiled, a place for the judging and executing action of God. The threshing floor is a place of decision. Just think, if there is winnowing and they separate the wheat from the chaff, and the one thing you use and you really look for, and the other thing you throw away, or it's cheap. In any case, the threshing floor is a place where God meets, where God appears, reveals himself to people, where God speaks, a place of, if God meets people, they see themselves in his light. So it's a place of recognition of sin, repentance, and penance, a place where people want to bring sacrifice. It's a place of reconciliation with God, a place of grace, and where God listens to, hears, and answers prayers. It's not a coincidence that the King David recognizes the threshing floor of Araunah, the Jebusite, as the place on which the sanctuary is to be built according to God's will. If the living God refers to Israel through the prophet Isaiah as Ben Goni, as the son of my threshing floor, then this means that God judges his people, yes. But foremost, that God has chosen his people and that God has a future for his people Israel. It means that he expects fruit from his people and that God uses the nation of Israel, whom he has chosen, whom he calls the son of my threshing floor, that God uses this nation to speak through them to the nations of the earth, and that he judges the peoples of the earth, and that he uses this son of the threshing floor as a standard for his judgment. The goal of all of God's work on the threshing floor, that means with the people of Israel, is just like all the goal of every work, of every activity on the threshing floor, is fruit, is yield, is wealth, is prosperity, well-being. If I want to include all these thoughts into one Hebrew word, then the goal of all the work on the threshing floor is shalom. Now,
There we go, that's what I want to see. Okay, I especially chose this one because since like we looked at names and said, boy, when the original people heard this, they understood what the names meant, and we don't necessarily know that. So I thought that would be helpful to us to translate the names. They also would have associations with threshing floors that we don't have. So I'm doing the same thing here. I'm trying to give a little bit more insight of what the original hearers may have intuited just when they heard, oh, the place of the threshing floor. I've been there. I know what that's like. And I like this picture because now these are more modern kinds of situations, but it shows you how there are small plots. You know, there's 3 right here in the foreground, and there is a large area where there's relatively flat stone. Remember that the people didn't live on their farms. They lived in the village, and then when they came to tend the farm, they went to their plot. And the threshing floor was a communal place. It wasn't, and it was considered sacred. It was a place of blessing, as he mentioned, that what comes to the threshing floor, the harvest, is a gift of God. If you go back prior to the understanding of one God alone and into the tribal understandings that are more primitive, one of the forms of worship they had was at the harvest, and they would worship some god of fertility. That was built into our most primitive ancestors. They worshiped the god of the sun and of the rain and of the wind, but when it came to the gifts of the harvest, there was this innate sense that this is not something we produced, we need to give thanks. So even that primitive understanding is in our human nature, that there's a provider, there's someone else, and we need to acknowledge that someone else and even make sacrifice. So when he talks about, I think it was Numbers 15, that says, offer the first fruits to God. let this be your sacrifice, the very first part of your harvest. I'm glad that's part of our history and tradition, but I don't think the Hebrews just came up with that willy-nilly. I think that was, the groundwork was laid in the pagan religions even before that, to sacrifice to the god. Now, obviously, they didn't understand who God was, and they might sacrifice to a carving or whatever, but they had that sense of, I will first give back. And that part translated over, so that when God revealed who God is, now we see where that came from. So they have the origins of coming to a communal place, a place of blessing, a place where everyone relied upon for their not only their own livelihood, but the livelihood of their village and their people. And that this was a place of gifts of God, and it was a place of sacrifice, because they would also then offer. And how they did their offerings in the earlier pagan religions, I'm not sure. But as you know, in the religious structure, sacrifices of grain and so forth often were what the Levites lived on. So it was a way of everyone contributing to the religious center and the people who were charged with that. It also said that the threshing floor is a place of judgment. Did that surprise you, or did that make sense to you?
Makes sense.
Yeah, to divide the wheat from the chaff, the stuff that's useful. I honestly don't know what threshing looks like, or what it would have looked like then. I think that when you harvest the heads of, this was the barley harvest, and I don't know if they have to be broken up first, they might have to, but the only vision I have is that there's some kind of a pitchfork kind of a thing where you lift up the pile and you shake it out, and the wind takes the dust and the chaff away, and the pure falls back down because it's got substance and weight to it.
Like a threshing machine.
And you do that, and I don't even know what a threshing machine
Yeah,
looks like.
it does exactly that, but it's automatic.
Yeah.
On a big combine.
So it was a place where people worked hard. And they probably had to do that multiple times for a long time to get everything sifted out to make it work.
So was that same belief of offering the first of fruit or first of harvest, did that integrate into your firstborn child was given to
Sure.
God as a
Oh, yeah,
blessing?
yes, yeah. And that came from the pagan fertility rites. That, in fact, I'll review that since you said that. Now you've opened a can of worms.
Thanks, Nancy.
It was Mommy's question, I just asked.
You should know better.
Yeah, in the pagan religions, that was the sign of the highest devotion. Your deepest trust in your God of fertility. That this child is a gift of the God of fertility, and in order to acknowledge my humility, I will sacrifice this child to that, knowing and trusting that that God will continue to provide them and bless us. Now, we can look at that today and say, oh my gosh, I'm sorry that ever happened. It's what a horrible thing, and it is horrible. But that's the origins of it.
But back then, it wasn't necessarily a choice of theirs,
Well,
was it?
Yeah, I mean,
It was just a religion.
Yeah, if you are people who think that, oh my gosh, the volcano's erupting, we better do something about it, let's sacrifice a virgin. I mean, you don't know what causes it, and if your thought is, whatever God that controls this, we've got to appease that God. And so unfortunately, that's where the primitive mindset was. And so in order to appease the God of fertility, unfortunately, child sacrifice was considered the highest form of devotion. That's why I think Abraham considered sacrificing Isaac, or God tested him. Because Abraham, thank goodness, perceived the one true God. This is the opening for us. So, it's moving from primitive understandings. Now God is revealing God's self. Abraham gets it. There's one God, and there's interaction happening here. And I want to show the highest devotion to this God. And so Abraham, in many ways, did that. He wasn't perfect. but he trusted in God enough that it was reckoned to him as righteousness. And when God said, I will be your God, you will be my people, you will be the father of many nations, the fact that he was so old and how long it took, and that Sarah was so old, at some point, Abraham said, well, maybe this is up to me, and he actually he said, oh, I guess my heir is supposed to be my servant in my house, or ended up taking the maidservant, because Sarah comes and said, I'm apparently barren. And there's a movie, I wish I knew the name of the movie. And it might just, I think it's called The Son of God, but it's not primarily about Jesus. I think it's this. And it's the life of Abraham. And it shows this stuff in stark reality. And Abraham walks about his life appalled by evil around him and in him. And when he sees, other people just ravaging and pillaging, he said, don't you respect the God of him? But then Sarah comes to him all discouraged and says, well, take my maidservant so that you'll have an heir. Even though God has promised him, and you can imagine the dynamic of that. And
See, that's an interesting point, because I always thought that it was almost more a test of Abraham's faith to show that he believed in God so much he would sacrifice his son that he had wanted so badly all his life, that God meant more to him than.
But before that, he failed a test of faith. And that's when Sarah comes to him very dejectedly, take my maidservant. And the act of faith that he should have done was never let that happen. I trust God. But what he did was, okay, and he had a child with the maidservant, and that sowed the seeds of bitterness in their household. Sarah was sincere about feeling bad that she hadn't born a child. And so you can see why, it's her fault. She said do it, but it was really up to him to then say, no, I will never do such a thing. But he failed that test. So with that failure, ringing and echoing, and in the movie, they depict it beautifully. Because as he sees, as he sees how that tears apart Sarah,
Right.
and he doesn't go to, well, she told me I could do it. He looks
Because
how
she said.
he is sincerely living his life saying, how could I have done that to her and to God?
And it was done.
Yeah, and there were consequences after that, but God didn't abandon them. The promise still was in force. And even when, and I don't know what part of the sequence, he failed the test again when they had to go to Egypt. And as he was there with Sarah, there was when they got into the villages of the other townspeople in Egypt, the men were looking at Sarah and they were basically casting lots for her. Oh, good, and Abraham was scared that if they knew that she was his wife, they would kill him. And so what did he call her? Does anybody remember? This is my sister.
Sister. Or is
I
it-
didn't give you time.
No, I couldn't get it off mute fast enough.
So in that, it implies that to save his neck, he was willing. And thank God that didn't happen, but he has failed numerous tests to trust. So with that ringing in his ears, and he's just appalled by that. He's developing a resolve to, I'm not going to fall again.
That's interesting. I never thought of it in that perspective.
So how do I show my devotion to the one true God? My neighbors around me, they'll sacrifice their firstborn. That's how I think that God spoke to Abraham. I don't know that God had a loudspeaker and said, go sacrifice Isaac. He may have. I think God may have spoken to him through his heart by saying, okay, I failed, and I see my neighbors, and this is their highest form of devotion, And so after, in their old age, they have the one son, and he takes him to sacrifice him. And I've had people look at me and say, I can't worship a God that would demand sacrifice like that. And I said, read the whole story. This isn't the story about how God wants the child sacrificed. This is the story of how God wants child sacrifice to end. And if you don't read past it, so if you read the whole story, he's bound and determined, I'm not going to fail God again. And he has the intention. He's got the knife. He's ready. He does the thing. And then the ram bleats. Again, I don't think it was God with the loudspeaker saying, hold up, just testing you. But in his heart, he perceived, oh, God provides. And because even Isaac said, where's the sacrifice? And he
Right.
said, God will provide the sacrifice.
Right.
Well, I mean, in his heart, he's thinking, my poor son at the time. But what happened? God did provide the sacrifice. And so when he heard the ram that was caught in the thicket with his horns, this was provided by God. And so it becomes to me the beautiful story of how you show he was tested to his highest devotion, and he finally passed a test. But God did not demand that he go through with that horrible act.
You know what's so cool about you putting it all like that? I had never heard how Abraham had gone through testing, because it who was it that said, we were reading something and someone said, it gives them peace to know that people who have been in the Bible went through and God still loved them even though they screwed up.
Mhm.
That's a great
Okay.
story, an example of that.
So you're still mad that she asked the question? Well, I am, because I don't remember what I was going to say next.
Do you want to know do you want to know about threshing barley?
Sure.
Okay, to
Thank
thresh barley by hand. Place the dried stalks in a pillowcase or a bag and beat them with your hands or a stick to separate the grains from the heads. Then winnow the grain by pouring it from one container to another, using wind or a fan to blow away the lighter chaff, repeating this process until the grain is clean.
Perfect. And is it Renee Google Ship Petrouche or Renee Ship Google Petrouche?
That's it.
Okay. With a hyphen.
Either will do.
Right.
Um,
So you're right about the wind, the fan or something like that, then that blows it away.
It was quite a tedious process.
They used big hand fans to do it.
But you have to make sure that the barley is completely dry before you begin, it says.
Before you bale the hay, you have to cut it and let it dry, or else it'll mold.
Okay.
So all that is, so now this is in their minds of what a threshing floor is, what that's about for the community. And if you picture in your mind that large threshing floor that as the barley harvest is happening, well, Boaz's pile is here and somebody else's pile is here. And so there's these piles of grain, and there must not have been a threat of enemies coming to steal the grain at that time, thankfully. Because I would imagine they'd have to have soldiers posted if there were.
Because it was such tight proximity, was it more communal? Or did they still, here was mine, here was mine?
Well, if the piles were all one pile.
And for the usage.
Yeah, that's a good question. Patty, would you ask that question? I have no idea. I don't know if it's.
He's saying here that he's saying, I think it was in my notes, that Boaz was in there to prevent theft.
Mhm.
And so he was worried that someone would take his.
Yeah.
Or,
So, all right, so if you would go home and research that and write a paper
Right.
and let us know. Because I would like to find out if they had their separate piles or if it was a communal pile or if they mingled and no one cared. I have no idea.
Right.
But what I'm trying to set the stage for is, the piles might be 4 or 5 feet high. And so if you need to sneak around stealthily at night, you can. So it says then that Naomi, in the very first verse, Naomi, the mother-in-law, said, my daughter, should I not seek rest for you that it may be well for you. Now, someone else tell me how yours is translated.
Security for you.
Security, all right, rest.
Provided for.
You will be provided for. All right, so Naomi feels obligation for her daughter-in-law. And that would have been totally in line with the customs of the day and with the covenant that Ruth made. Ruth bound herself to Naomi, but did so not as an equal, but as her daughter, as, you know.
Right.
So Naomi, such as it was, had the authority and the responsibility. No one else had responsibility for Ruth at this point. There was no male heir, there was nothing. So Naomi said, I need to think about your future. And so that would have been perfectly in line, even with Naomi, if she were depressed and grieving and saying, you know, I have to give away my one daughter, but it's for her good. I've got to find a way for her. So Naomi, at this point, is still Mara. She's still bitter. But she has this presence of mind to know that nobody has authority except me, and so I'm going to take action here. And she knows that to secure her future, her rest, her security, her prosperity, if she can find a husband, that's really the way it works in their society. And you know, and so Naomi becomes matchmaker.
Right.
And now the events are coming together. Do you notice God is not really a character in this play? At least not
It's Naomi.
explicitly.
Right.
But God is implicitly a character, because all of the people listening realize, you know, all these coincidences that keep happening. And that ends up being a great part of the story, God's providential provision. So even though God may not be interacting as a character, God is certainly seen as having set up these things. And Boaz is human enough and smart enough to notice Ruth. And Naomi is human enough and smart enough to say, oh, I think maybe this, and we do have a kinsman. So they put it together. God didn't spell it out for them, but God basically had it there waiting. They just had to figure it out.
Well, don't you think in a way, we're that way? We're characters in the big play of life, and God's grace and His God winks are throughout every day, every hour in our own lives. Yeah.
I can relate to that very personally, because I think God doesn't send me an instruction manual each morning. He doesn't give me a to-do list. But God has things for me to do and ways for me to act. And I need to discern that. And my discernment is imperfect. And I've told people that when they say, well, how do you hear God speaking to you? I've never had the loudspeaker, but I've had things that I think are unmistakably, I can't prove, but I acted on it, and boy, look what happened. That must have been God. I got the hint that time. I did like Naomi and Boaz, I got the hint. 9 times out of 10, I think I'm getting a hint, but it's my other side. So I tell people when they say, how do you know God's speaking to you? I said, well, for me, the voice of God is very difficult to separate from the voice in my head that says, lay on the couch and eat pizza all day. Or whatever. And that's our human condition. So is this a prompting of God? And we know that in the extreme, people can say, well, yes, I must murder all these people that are God's enemies. And what a tragic thing. I mean, at least laying on the couch and eat pizza only hurts me. But if you get it to the extreme, and that's why we need our history, our church, to feed back, I think God is calling me to paint the outside of the church pink. Well, thank God there's a session that would say, I don't know if that's God's will.
It's called Golden Cadillac. No. But you know what, because the virtue this month is discernment and wisdom, I think in your example of God and you discerning what is what, you still have wisdom that you know that there's God. And it doesn't mean that we can totally understand verbatim what He's saying, but it's your conscience in your heart, knowing that you have the wisdom, that you know God is in your life, and you know He's going to be there for you and help you whenever you need Him.
And so we make decisions, and the word decide, CIDE, to kill. When you decide, you kill a one possibility and go with the other. The road that diverges in the yellow wood, and it made all the difference. I made a choice. Decisions can be hard because we're cutting off a possibility. Or incision, decision, you can hear that it's cutting off something and deciding to, and we've all been in situations where, what does God want me to do? How do I pick? For me, it was the first church that I went to serve. I was between two churches. I think, I can't pick. I've worked with both cross-denominating committees. One of them is going to be devastated. How do I pick? I can't pick. And if I could have avoided the decision my whole life, I would have avoided it. But God brought me to that place. And so I asked for discernment to do that. And as Robert Frost said, I chose the one less traveled, and that made all the difference. He didn't say, thank God, because this would have, he didn't know what that would have led to. You don't get to know what the other choice would have been. So when people are paralyzed by fear in making a decision, I'm guessing that's Sandy. She was going to drop off some bags for, yes, I guess right. Hi, Sandy.
DoorDash with pizza.
Oh,
it'd be done by now.
We're so glad to see you. Thank you for bringing these. She will very much appreciate it, so.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi, Sandy. Bye, Sandy.
If people are paralyzed by fear to make a decision, what I will say is give it some time, some prayer, but don't let it linger too long and decide. Well, what if I pick the wrong way? So, well, what if you do? God will go with you in that. We are human. Sometimes we're going to pick the wrong one. Our ancestors picked the wrong one. And it had consequences. Abraham failed those, and it had consequences. God did not abandon him. Doesn't mean that's the only choice you'll ever get to make in your life. You will learn from it. God will be with you in it. And you will still have agency to make choices in the future. And thank God in my life, I can say I at least got a few of them right. Enough of them that has led me to be able to testify that. I still get them wrong. And so when God's trying to nudge me, I have a high degree of emotional problems that I will avoid. I have avoidance. I go to counseling now every month because it causes me to not be the leader I want to be or be the husband I want to be. So I still have problems making the right choices, not just because of selfish reasons, but because of defense mechanisms and things that are, pathological and all of that stuff. And so we all have that difficulty to work it out. But we make the best decision we can.
Yes.
And God goes with us in it. And then in hindsight, we decide, boy, would I have done that again? Was that, and sometimes you say that was the wrong decision. Okay, that's learning.
But sometimes those wrong decisions are not
Right.
100% wrong.
Exactly.
They could be 80% wrong.
And so with Robert
maybe
Frost, we
60.
say, I chose the less traveled, and that made all the difference.
Right. And
Was
so
it a good
sometimes
difference or
it's
bad
not
difference?
so
Yeah.
bad.
So,
So
okay.
it's okay.
Sometimes I think that when a person is thinking about becoming a Christian and they really don't understand what that means, I think that if they are maybe a little tunnel vision in what the perspective is, they might think that everything is rose-colored glasses and everything's hunky-dory because you've accepted God and God's in your life and God is like this genie that if I pray, it's going to be granted. And that's not what faith is at all, or believing in God. And I know, but that's really a belief. But just like you were saying, my daddy always, one of his favorite things when he first read it, and his mother, my grandma, had it in her Bible, and he found it when we were going through everything. And it was the footprints. And we sat down, and I remember we were eating supper, and Daddy was reading it to us, and we all talked about what it meant. And really, we're gonna screw up. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna look in our rearview mirror and think, wow, I should have known better. We can reflect, but the beautiful thing of it is, even when we screw up, God is right there by our side, and He's there to pick us up when we fall flat on our face. And sometimes I think we beat ourselves up so much because we made the wrong mistakes, or because we reacted differently, or because we feel like we're losing it. We're just sometimes you can feel like you're a mental mess. You really can. I mean, there are times, my daddy's birthday was on the 12th, and I tell you, it was like, holy crap, it was like I was reliving him being here and dying, and my mom. It was like, wow, where does all that emotion come from? I don't know, but it's who we are.
Yeah.
So sometimes we get mad at ourselves because we react a certain way. So don't be so hard on yourself.
Well, that's what I do.
You're as real and human as we are.
Right.
But sometimes I think that when you
But God's there.
yeah, I think when you put a title on yourself and you're supposed to behave differently, no, you're loved by God as much as we are, and
And you're carried by Him all the time.
all the time.
I have the privilege, and have had the privilege, and we have more than 2 people right now who are considering their faith journey and may be baptized.
Okay.
And I've had the privilege of being aware of that, and I may get the privilege of taking them forward if that's the way they go.
Good.
In one particular instance now, you talked about when somebody's kind of new to the faith. I have a problem because it's taken me 60 years to gain some of these things that I think are really, really useful. I wish someone would have told me. And in this one poor young person in particular, if I get a chance to visit with him, I'm going to talk to him for 60 years. Or I'm going to try and give him 60 years worth and probably overwhelm him. So somebody's going to have to be there to mitigate that and say, you don't have to do this all at once. God did work with you over 60 years. Trust that He will work with this person.
Pastor Jim, you know what? You're no different than a teacher, a principal, because the greatest gift, that's, wisdom. God, through our journeys, as our experience, we gain wisdom. And it's very important. It's our responsibility. If you've learned some wisdom things that you need to pass on, that's our responsibility. When it was new teachers coming on board and they're getting burned out like crazy and they're walking out because they can't handle because of so many, whether it's time allotment, whether it is overwhelmed with time management, it doesn't matter. If you can give a gift of how to help a person go through the journey easier because of your knowledge, God, that's your gift.
Yeah.
That is your gift. I mean, you have a gift of knowledge and sharing that. But you should say, God has given me the gift of my experience. I'm going to pass it on. Pay it forward with your wisdom.
I looked up in the old printed dictionaries the word verbose, and my picture was next to it.
I wonder why.
Okay, I'm going to take us just
I
for...
hope Jennifer took it.
In Numbers, which is the favorite book of Don Swick, my CPA and church member in Muskegon.
Yes.
In Numbers, which is a part of the Torah, it's part of what's attributed to Moses. And of course, you know that at the time they were wandering in the wilderness. And what did they have for food? Manna, and then they got tired of that, and they had quail, but God provided. But they didn't have crops. So listen for Numbers chapter 15, starting at verse 17. The whole chapter and the whole section is about offerings. But I'm just going to start at Numbers 15, verse 17, just to give you an idea of God preparing the people for the new phase that they would be entering. Numbers 15, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers. So it's the fourth book of the Bible.
And then 17.
Genesis 15, verse 17. 15, verse 17. Then the Lord said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. When you arrive in the land where I am taking you, note that they are the people Israel before the land. And we have to make sure that we don't tie the meaning of Israel to a geographic site. That's how we're, when you say Chicago, oh, I know what that is. I know the geography of that. It's not the people, but in this case, they were Israel before they had land. So it's the people, not the geography. And you eat the crops that grow there, you must set some aside as a sacred offering to the Lord. Present a cake from the first of the flour that you grind. Set it aside as a sacred offering, as you do with the first grain from the threshing floor. So there you go. There's the place of offering. Throughout the generations to come, you are to present a sacred offering to the Lord each year from the first of your ground flour. Okay. And then it goes on to talk about if they fail to do it and how to sacrifice and all that stuff and atone.
But when they do give these, like the ground flour and all that, that ends up going to the Levites, right?
I want to say, yeah, in some way, they were not a wasteful people. They didn't just say, okay, you got to leave this to rot. So now, there may have been circumstances when they did have to walk away from it. So I'm not saying that never happened, but I know at least became the practice that cake that they made, and remember there's the holy bread of presence, and it was replenished every week in the Holy of, or not the Holy of Holies, but the tabernacle, in the first portion of that. So there's part of that, but there may have been some times when they had to walk away and leave it. But I think most of all, it may have been used for the priestly people among them. It may have been, and a lot of this is in addition to what they left in the fields for charity so there was a lot of giving going on here. So that's a little of that background. Back to Ruth chapter 3. Boaz is this is verse 2, chapter 3. Boaz is a close relative of ours, a Goel, kinsman redeemer. And he's been very kind by letting you gather grain with his young women. She's figuring it out. God set the table, but she had to figure it out. And tonight, he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Well, he'll be doing some really tough work. He'll be working up a sweat. He'll be, so do as I tell you. Take a bath, put on perfume, dress in your nicest clothes. We're not sure if that's the best translation. What do you have in there for nicest clothes? Best?
Best
It
clothes.
says best garments.
Mine says Chanel.
Oftentimes,
Your Coco Chanel.
if people had the means to have two sets of garments, and some people were poor enough that they only had one garment. If they had the means to have two sets of garments, which this implies, that one was more sacred, one was more special.
Your Sunday
And
best.
it may be, we don't know, but it may be that Ruth was still wearing the garments of mourning. Remember Dances with Wolves?
Right.
And she had to be in a period of mourning for her husband that passed away. And she didn't get to say, okay, I'm done mourning.
Right.
It was the parent. And so this might be Naomi taking that role. In Dances with Wolves, he said, your period of mourning is over. And it was kind of a humorous moment because he saw what was happening and that she had a new opportunity. So in this case, Naomi sensed it. And so this may be a way of her saying, your morning clothes, you can trade. Now, there's other nuance to it as well, obviously, but
Do the children and the teenagers wear certain garments under their regular clothes to show their innocence, virginity?
I know that they dressed in layers. There's cloaks and tunics, and we'll hear the word skirt used here. So, yeah.
I don't know how much you know about the Mormon church when they go to the temple and are married.
Very little.
It's really not a really well-known thing, but when you are married, the women have you are anointed, well, very special rooms, almost like our holy thing.
Mhm.
And they're anointed with oil, and they are placed with like a very white cotton, very plain slip, if you will. And that is to never be removed ever. They shower in it, and when they change, it has to be on the legs, and then they slip on the other one on their head, so that their body is never without a garment.
Interesting.
They're always
If
covered.
they have been married, if they're married in the temple,
Mhm.
and not everybody qualifies to be married in the temple.
Interesting.
Now,
Okay. Well, and now as we read between the lines here, when she says, take a bath, put on perfume, dress up nice, we know what's happening as well there too. And Ruth would know that as well. And so Ruth is having agency in this as well, although her mother is the one who has said, I'm doing this because you need provision. So they're on board with it. If Ruth had a problem with it, that would be a part of the story. But Ruth understood, and she knew the risk she was taking. All right?
She
Because
must have liked him too, or she
Well,
would have said something.
it's hard to know.
Don't you
I
think?
don't know if she had any kind of, she certainly felt relieved that he treated her kindly.
Right.
And there may have been some, my hero, my savior, there may have been some of that. There may have been some romantic leaning, I don't know.
Right.
Or it may have just been more of this is a duty of the way God orders things, and this is my nearest kinsman.
Right.
Whatever it was, she didn't look at and say, really, Boaz? He's an old, grizzly old man. Yeah, whatever, we don't
Right.
know.
But she went along
so
with it.
because Naomi felt that she was the protector and the person, who was responsible for Ruth, was there a dowry that was expected to be given to Boaz?
The property that went with her husband,
Transferred
got transferred to him, yeah. So, yeah,
Because he's relative, so it all
Yeah.
went back.
yeah, all the stuff
Family.
of the sons, Frail and Sick, which are the two sons.
Do we know if Naomi went to live with Boaz and Ruth? Did they take care of her?
It's not explicit, but it's implied.
Okay.
Yeah, the family units lived in close quarters together, and you were obligated to your elders. So yeah, Ruth made the covenant with, just because she was given to Boaz, that didn't break Ruth's covenant. She was still devoted to Naomi, Naomi's people, Naomi's God.
Is that why she's revealed as a very loving person, because she was true blue, Odie?
Loyal friendship. This is the book of, her name means loyal friendship. Oh,
Book of friendship.
okay, thank you. Oh, there we go. Yes. Okay. Very good. So hopefully that answers that question. So she's taking a risk. She's taking a risk because everybody knows that this is on the edge of being scandalous.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the dynamic that's going to come. And it's also the edge of danger. On her way there, if there are bandits coming to the threshing floor, if there are other workers sleeping that she stumbles across, if she, she could be putting herself in a dire situation. And so, and Naomi says, be careful to notice where Boaz lies down. Because when it's dark, you can go, so you have to kind of stand off in the distance and observe, because there are probably other people around there, and you don't want to, stumble upon the wrong situation. But if you find Boaz and lay at his feet, just do what he says. Now, that's titillating in the story, and that's okay. Is this scandalous? We'll see. All right, so.
Wait, real quick.
Mhm.
So they did the threshing at night, so they could harvest during the day. So when they were sleeping, was that a separate room from when they were actually doing the threshing?
I don't think there was a structure. I think it was open.
Open, okay.
I think, maybe in later times there were structures,
Maybe the boundaries of where everything was stacked.
but I think this, So if you're sneaking around, it's between the piles of grain. It's not, there's no walls that I know of.
Okay.
Well, they must have been a little bit concerned if they're saying be careful, because, I mean, women were stoned,
Mhm.
for being,
Right.
And I know Naomi was protective, and yet Boaz was very protective of her.
So
Why do you suppose that they wanted to put her at risk? Or is that just something that we're to learn from that, the trusting and the friendship?
I think
of
so.
doing any and everything to help everything come together? Okay.
I mean, whenever we act in life, there's risk. And when we answer God's call, God doesn't say, okay, well, that I'm going to protect you from. No, you're going to get the bumps and bruises and arrows sometimes, and take the risk. And so this is one of those things where they're discerning. Naomi didn't say, oh, I know that God is going to work this out perfectly. All she could do is say, I think this might work out. I'm gonna allow her to be out of her period of mourning, because I'm the only one that can release her from that. And we're gonna pursue this, and the two of them both know what the possible outcomes are, good and bad. And so they act, everything we see is how they act honorably. But not with certainty. We don't walk by sight, we walk by faith.
With her taking off the mourning clothes, does that mean that she wouldn't be committing adultery then, because she was no longer mourning for her husband?
Yeah, that may be more than I can conclude from that, but it just makes sense to me that somebody had to release her from a period of mourning, and Naomi was the only one left to do that. So, she may not have been wearing mourning clothes up to that time. It's hard to know what her wardrobe was, such as it is. So then she said, go to the threshing floor, but don't let Boaz see you until he has finished eating and drinking. So here's a guy who's been harvesting and winnowing, and he has a nice meal and a good dose of wine, and then he will lie down. So be sure to notice where he lies down. Probably will be out pretty quickly. Go and uncover his feet and lie down there, and he will tell you what to do. Now, to lie at someone's feet is to be their servant. And I told you about the euphemism that Elizabeth Platt, my Old Testament professor, was saying, well, that can also mean more privates. And really, feet in the Middle Eastern culture are unclean. So that's why a servant lies at the feet. And so I don't know how much to read into the euphemism here. But suffice it to say, there is, the story has us on the edge of scandal this whole time. And that's a great storytelling technique, because we don't know, is it going to go this way or that way? And that keeps us involved in looking what happens next, what happens next. And he will tell you what to do. Well, if she's going to lay down as his servant, then that becomes his prerogative. And will he take the cue that God is giving him here? And Ruth then agrees to it. And so she didn't say, oh, please, not Boaz, or I can't leave you, or whatever. She was on board enough not only, she may have been attracted to him, or may have been wanting to, or she may have just been obedient to Naomi, or she may have done this from duty. We don't know, but she agreed. And she knew that there were different outcomes, positive or some with risk. So she went down to the threshing floor that night, verse 6, and followed the instructions of her mother-in-law. And after Boaz finished eating and drinking, he was in good spirits.
Mine says drunk.
Okay.
A lot of good spirits.
Yes, exactly. And I wanted to stop on that verse and see some of the different translations. The King James, trying to keep it rated, G, said that his heart was merry.
Cheerful.
So when you're pulled over, and the police said, "Have you been drinking?" Well, my heart is merry. So
His heart was cheerful.
yes. So we have one that just flat out says
He was drunk.
he was drunk.
Right. He had eaten and drunk.
Okay, anybody have any other good spirits, merry, cheerful?
He was cheerful.
Cheerful, happily,
Good spirits.
he went off happily. He was in a good mood. So there's all kinds of ways they try and bring that about. So, but you get the idea that he's been working hard, he's got a full tummy, he's been drinking, he's gonna lie down.
Yeah.
We know what that state is like. Everybody kind of knows about that. Okay. In fact, in 2 Samuel 13:28, you don't have to turn to it. When someone is married, it can be pretty, this is Absalom. Absalom commanded his servants, saying, "See, now when Amnon's heart is merry with wine, and when I say to you, strike Amnon, then put him to death." So this, in that story, it was like we have to wait until he's out of it from the wine that we can sneak up and so it's not always in the context we find it in Ruth.
Right.
But this idea of they would say merry with wine or happy or in good spirits, and some of us just say he was over the limit.
Over the top.
Okay, back to verse 8. Around midnight, Boaz suddenly woke up and he turned over. Probably had sleep apnea, right? And he was surprised to find a woman lying at his feet. Wow. And so he said, "Who are you?" And that phrase I'm going to look up in Hebrew because it repeats. And it's kind of a weird Hebrew. Let me see if it's the same word structure. Yes, exactly. Okay. All right, good. So when we get to the next one, I can. So he said, "Who are you?" Or "who you" in Hebrew. Who you? Yeah, and so she said, "I am your servant, Ruth." Now, what other words do you have besides servant?
I'm your maidservant.
Maidservant, okay.
Must be doing the New Translation.
I'm going back and forth.
Mine's exactly like yours.
Okay. That's the basis one, but I've got several now in front of me here. So a handmaid is the older English version.
Ours just said, "It's Ruth, sir."
Okay. I am your servant, your maidservant. I guess that's all. Okay. And she was being appropriate. She lay down at his feet and said, "I am now your servant, Ruth." And then she said, "Spread the corner of your covering over me, for you are my family redeemer." So there are important things here. Now the covering, your covering, is there another word that you have for covering? For example, in King James, it says, "Spread
Garment.
therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid."
Mine says garment.
Garment. All right.
Mine says guardian redeemer.
Mine says kinsman.
Okay. And that the word behind that is goel. Your cloak is another translation. under your wing in the New King James Version. Take your servant under your wing.
Right, that's what I
All right, remember we talked about God as, under your wings?
Uh-huh.
And when someone is a protector for someone, to spread your cloak over them wasn't, hey, see what's underneath. It's not nasty like that. It's spread your cloak over,
Protection.
become my protector,
Protect.
is what she's saying here. So nothing untoward is really happening here. We're still on the edge of scandal, but when she says that, they're not, going into something that would be scandalous.
Right.
She's saying, please become my protector, for you are my kinsman redeemer, my closest male redeemer.
Close relative.
Yes.
Ours is really different. He says, take off your cloak and spread it out here. And she did, and he poured out almost 50 pounds of barley.
That's going to come down later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My head-
So, that's, so we're at verse 9 right now.
I'm like,
But when we get, because Ruth has a cloak. So they all had some sort of garment. And later on, he's going to fill her garment that she takes back with her. But in this case, when he says, cover me with your garment, it was more symbolic than it was the physical reality of lying with him. It was, cover me as my protector.
Yeah. Yeah, mine, the explanation actually says, spread the corner of your garment is a request for marriage, which is actually a similar custom still practiced in some parts of the Middle East today.
Okay.
Oh, very good, Jim.
So it's even more explicit than, or more implicit, but
yeah,
they would have known what she,
Yeah,
and so she's.
So please marry me.
Yeah.
Oh,
And that leaves us, if you stopped there and said, okay, everybody take a bathroom break, that would be a real cliffhanger. What's he gonna say? What's he gonna do? And so we get to read on in verse 10, and, oh, the Lord bless you, my what?
it's my daughter.
My daughter. All right? Doesn't mean familial relations like that, but it does mean that she was younger and she was the one in the relationship that needed, oh, that's a good idea.
No.
Oh, sorry.
I'm straining with it.
I didn't even think to turn those back on. That in that relationship, he was the one that really had the agency to determine what comes next.
Right.
And when he says daughter, it's a term of affection for someone who's in a weaker position than you, but it's affectionate. Boaz exclaimed, you are showing even more family loyalty now than you did before. So she was loyal to Naomi, and everybody knew about it. For you have not gone after a younger man, whether they are rich or poor. So apparently that was an option that she may have had. She could have ditched Naomi. She could have gone back home. She could have made any number of choices. And when she was here, she apparently had choices as well. And but she went with the tradition of the kinsman redeemer, and that he considered to be a high act of devotion to the family. So don't worry about a thing. Again, my daughter, I will do what is necessary. For everyone in town knows that you are I have virtuous woman. What do you have? Anybody have anything different?
Noble character.
Noble
yeah.
character, okay. All right. So people, it's a small community. They knew the story. And everyone respected this foreigner for how she made a covenant to bind herself to Naomi and come risking whatever came. And so people knew that. But it's also for me a good signal that this virtuous, noble. Again, I think the author takes us up to the edge of scandal and we wonder, oh, are they gonna take this turn or that turn? And I think the whole meeting was virtuous. Now, of course, being a human, I can see where there was temptation. And so Boaz may have been tempted, but I don't see anything that tells me that he acted on the temptation.
Me too. I think that word was key for wondering what happened next.
Yeah. So now I can't prove it, and other people interpret it differently, but that's how I do it. Thank you. But while it's true that I am one of your family redeemers, oh, now a plot twist. There is another man who is more closely related to you than I am. Dun, dun, dun. So stay here tonight. All right, so he could have thrown her out. Oh my gosh, if I'm seen with you, stay here tonight. In the morning, I will talk to him. And if he's willing to follow the custom, and we're going to do this right, here's another signal of virtue. Boaz could have tried to, take it off, but I'm going to follow custom. I'm going to do this the right way. So again, I see more virtue here. If he's willing to redeem you, then very well, let him marry you. But if he is not willing, then as sure as the Lord lives, I will redeem you myself. So lie down and rest until morning.
So could we think that maybe culturally, this in this story is she went there during the night and laid at his feet, aha. But what if culturally that's what they did, if they thought it was going to be a union? You know what I mean? It might be that.
And taken, I don't know if this is going to work out or not.
Yeah.
But from everything I see, they acted in a way that was true to their virtue and their faith and beliefs.
Because I don't see where it doesn't, it's not explicit. I mean, she literally laid by his feet. We interpret
Then
that.
he woke up and they talked.
Yeah.
But I at least need to be honest with you that is
That
interpreted
is
differently because of that euphemism that's out there. So it's.
Well, it definitely is about her character,
Yes.
and yeah.
So she lies down until morning, and in verse 14, Ruth lay at Boaz's feet until the morning. But she got up before it was light enough for people to recognize each other. That's when I used to do my paper out, on the days when my mom didn't do it for me. I had to say that because my sister knows. For Boaz had said, no one must know that a woman was here at the threshing floor. So now he realizes, if anybody knows this, this is going to be ruinous for you and could be for me.
For him too.
Right.
Yeah, so, and he protects her from that.
Right.
And so that's another, she took a risk and it's working out here. Verse 15, Boaz said to her, bring your cloak. So now she had requested his cloak symbolically as a proposal of marriage and take me under your wing and protection.
Right.
And now the step parallel to that is bring me your cloak and I will seal my promise. And I'm not going to send you back to your mother-in-law empty. He measured out 6 scoops of barley into the cloak and placed it on her back. And then she returned to town. Now I laugh because did anybody have anything other than 6 scoops of barley in verse 15?
6 measures of barley.
6 measures?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 50 pounds.
50 pounds!
Ephes, EPHAHS.
Yes. Oh my gosh, when Chris is delivering packages, she gets mad at me if I order enough cat food that she says the delivery person can't lift that much. So she wants me to make sure that, because she's keenly aware of, and 50 pounds, so, but anyway, it's certainly generous. It goes to probably the people who were hardy in that day when they had to harvest all of those things. And so she probably knew how to carry that without putting her back out.
It was
But
interesting.
you said back, and then this just says put it on.
Okay, yeah.
So.
And they did that a lot. That's how they
On the
carried everything.
head?
Yeah.
They
Hard to
carried it
know.
around
I
them.
know.
But it was quite the
Or
load.
around their head.
And I just wanted to bring that out, that we don't know what 6 scoops or measures of barley is, but 50 pounds, we have a good
But it
idea.
was interesting, it wasn't really so much a gift for Ruth, it was to have her take back, so she wouldn't go back
Right.
empty-handed to her family.
Right.
Yeah,
And that would be a surefire signal from Boaz to Naomi.
that this is
I got
works.
this.
arrangement.
But it
I've
worked.
got this, just like you thought, I've got this from you. So verse 16, when Ruth went back to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, and this is where it comes back, who you? It's the same thing, who you? Which can also mean how are you, or what happened. But it's the same little 2 words in Hebrew that Boaz said when he woke up and saw her, who you? And so I love that. But it was, so I don't know if she was startled or if it was just the way that they say what happened. But how is it with you, maybe? Ruth told Naomi everything Boaz had done. She added, he gave me these 50 pounds of barley and said, don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed.
Right.
And Naomi was smart enough to say, aha, the committee, they know how to read between the lines here. So Naomi then was able to conclude, be patient, my daughter, until we hear what happens, because this man will not rest until he has settled this thing today.
Right.
Close curtain for Act 3. Isn't this?
It's a page turner.
This is, I think it's brilliant storytelling. And there's so much in it. I thank you for helping to draw out. Yes, Jim?
I missed that part there. It said that Boaz was saying, it's true, I am a guardian, but there is another more closely related to you.
Yeah.
Who was that? I forgot who the person was.
We'll find out without a name.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't Eli.
Chapter 3.
It was just a character, an unnamed character that will show up in chapter 4.
Yeah, he said he wants to do his duty, but let him redeem me. But if he doesn't, then I'll do it. That's what.
So, and that was that little plot twist.
Yeah.
Oh, is
That's
this going to work out? Or if, Boaz is going to take a risk himself.
Boaz is going to do him in.
Boaz is
Right.
doing it the right way, and he's taking a risk, because this guy might snatch up the opportunity.
Yeah, because he's kind of considered property.
Exactly.
Because I
And unfortunately-
acquired along with the
Yes.
property, because
Yeah.
to keep the name running in the family,
Yeah.
as I understand it.
So,
Okay,
and yeah, we really
This is
screwed
all
up as
good.
men
Yeah.
when we allowed them not to be property anymore,
Yeah.
because now
I didn't say a word.
oh darn, I said that on the internet. Oh my God. Unfortunately, that was a part of how they understood that.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yes, I am.
True.
And in chapter 4, we're going to see that
Okay.
when, I'll give you a foreshadowing, when Boaz goes before the gathered chieftains at the gate, and he's going to do this properly, and he's going to offer the right of redemption of Naomi's property, which is for sale, and I don't know if it's going to be a transaction or if it's just a ritual, but Naomi is offering her property, which really, she's a woman, so it's Elimelech's and Mahlon and Chilion's property. But she is now offering it to the family, and you're first in line.
So what does that mean that you said?
So is Ruth's
redemption?
property?
Property, what did you say, property of redemption?
Yeah, dude, everything,
Yeah.
Ruth is
So
offering, she's offering the plot of land,
And
Okay.
so
the
if you,
property.
Yeah.
so if you take me, this is what you get. And was it to the highest bidder or just?
No, he was the one person who, because he was closer, he was a closer, he was a
Closer relative.
first cousin, and Boaz was the second, I have no idea, but he was closer somehow. So he had the right, and Boaz risked it, and he said, I know he's gonna want this property. I mean, nobody in the right mind wouldn't want the land.
Right.
But Boaz knew, and I'll leave that as a cliffhanger for what part of the property.
It's only one short little chapter.
Yeah.
I
already read it, so-
was a page.
Yeah, okay, spoiler alert. If you take this property, remember the whole part of the property, because Ruth is the property too.
I was just asked if she was considered property.
So if you're gonna take the land, you take responsibility,
Ruth was with her.
and she will be under your cloak and
Right.
your protection.
Right.
Now, who knows what his circumstance was? We'll get into that next time, and it doesn't say. We don't know if he had a wife, if he had heirs. I have a feeling
Well,
that,
and wouldn't it also include Naomi in that too?
well, yeah, she may have come along with the deal. So, but
That's
certainly.
family.
Certainly Ruth was part of that, exchange of property. Yeah, you get the land, plus
Property,
you get the,
Naomi,
Yeah.
the livestock with it here, so.
and the cat and the
Nobody
dog.
caught that.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to keep going, but it's time to quit.
Ours says Boaz sat down with the deacons.
And negotiated.
And they did their cheer. DEAC.
Praise God.
Deacons, we're the best.
All right.
That's so true, Joanne.
I'm clearly sitting in the wrong room on Mondays.
And that's
Could be one of us.
He does
You're
when we do
welcome.
cheer, he's like.
Joanne could be one of us.
Hey, that's right. Speaking of Steve, the judge makes a decision tomorrow, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
On Oliver.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is it tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh my
Right.
gosh, oh, big time prayers then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for reminding us of that.
So we're gonna read chapter 4 for next week, right?
Yeah, over and over.
And
Over.
yeah, I know, that's what I'm
In
saying.
fact, memorize it.
Could we
If Pam has to learn biblical Hebrew, then it's only fair that you memorize chapter
Could you
4.
hold this class at the golf course next week so I can be part of this?
Well, and everybody make sure to shame Ethel into watching the video as soon as possible.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
I'll see her tonight. We'll see her
Okay.
tonight.
Yeah, we're going over there tonight.
I
Yes.
wonder if there's ever been like a YouTube movie or something, a special on
Go to me.
Boaz and Ruth.
yeah,
That'd be interesting to
Yeah.
watch, wouldn't it?
well, and if you can handle this guy's accent and his slow speaking, he's got like 90 different videos on Ruth, so it's up to you. But there's other ones out
Yeah, but
there.
I'm talking about an actual movie and see how they
I went to
depicted
the 2 hour
it. Yeah, and see how they depicted it.
Well, it certainly has all the elements
Oh, it
of,
does.
that draws you into the story.
I don't know.
His only son.
It's in
His
there.
only son.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the movie, his only
Hard
son.
to understand.
That's the Abraham
Son
movie,
is the movie.
his only son.
He's only signed up.
Oh, what is it? It's
His
only
his only son?
Yeah, and so you think, oh, this is a movie about Jesus.
No,
It's Abraham's
Sounds like
only
it.
son, Isaac.
Right.
Okay.
that's
So-
sad.
And, you know, it's gripping. And I love how they depicted it. His,
like
his,
Did it say who's streaming? Did
I
this?
didn't, no.
yeah, you'll have to look up.
His only son.
Let me offer please a prayer and we'll close.
Wait a minute, I have something.
Pam has it.
I have an answer for Nancy.
Yes.
Yes, the piles of, and the threshing floor were separate for each farmer, even when it was a communal threshing floor.
There we go.
There you go.
I should have
Thank
just
you.
said that
Okay,
confidently
I
when I
took you off
started.
the hook, Patty.
I could have avoided the shame of saying I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have to do a report, thank you, ma'am.
We love you, Pam. Yes, we do.
Loving and gracious God, how enriching it is to be in relationship with you, to be able to know that we are under your cloak, your wings of protection, not because of anything we have done to earn that, but because of you being in Christ, our kinsman redeemer, that has done what is right and righteous, and that we rely on you for our cleansing and for our redemption, for our going forward. Help us, please, to act as humble servants in ways that not only bless our lives, but bless the lives of our neighbors and all the families of the earth. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank